Oh, hello, this is Tak Chung from Walk with Tak. Welcome to my YouTube channel. First of all, let me wish you a happy new year, a wonderful 2024. Please feel free to write me at walkwithtak@gmail.com if you have any question regarding to this video or any other videos that I have posted in the past. It's easier for me to answer you more fully through email. So feel free to write me anytime, and I'm looking forward to hearing from you. During my final year as an undergraduate student, I worked in a Chinese restaurant, mainly as a bartender. But during the summer, they have some staff shortage, so they recruited me to serve as a cook. And they taught me how to cook, and I picked it up really quickly. I remember that time I cooked on a wok stove that probably delivered as much as 250,000 BTU. It is a stove, looks something like this. You know, it can really accelerate the cooking process. And of course, I enjoyed it very much. It's challenging because you have to act really fast. Otherwise, you can get your food burned very quickly. Now, the food is not, I would call it particularly great. I think because that restaurant is not catered to high-end cooking. Not unlike in this video, actually these dishes are really excellent. But the most important thing about this stove is its speed. With most of the dish that I can cook it in less than 2 to 3 minutes. From a restaurant standpoint, this is an excellent approach because the customer never have to wait long. So when I first came to an electric stove like this, my first impression is that I would not be able to stir fry on this stove because it's just not going to produce enough heat as what I used to do in a Chinese restaurant. Now, this actually is quite a long time ago. I met a cook, and he is a chef from a well-known Chinese restaurant in Houston, Texas. He's a Chinese Vietnamese, and he's an excellent cook. And on the trip, I asked him, I said, what kind of stove do you use at home? Well, he said, I use a stove that at home, first and foremost, is that I use a stove that's very relatively low in BTU, because the last thing I want is to create a lot of oil film in my kitchen. And first of all, this is not healthy, and on top of that, it's completely unnecessary. In fact, it does not make the food taste any better. I was very surprised to hear this from him because my impression is that if you want to stir fry and if you want to do it right, you have to use a stove with huge amount of BTU, just like you would find in a Chinese restaurant. And he told me that, no, he said, you do not want to use a stove like that because first of all, is that it's not going to make the food any better. And secondly, is that if you want to reproduce anything in a Chinese restaurant, you're not going to eat healthy. He said, I never eat at my restaurant because it has too much oil, fat, and salt, as well as lots of sugar as well. If you want to cook at home, the most important part of your cooking is the selection of the ingredients and how did you season your dish. And it was very surprising to me when it comes from a chef like him, because I would have imagined that he would cook exactly the same way at home as he would have cooked in his restaurant. But that's exactly the opposite. He told me that when he cooked at home, his attention is focused on the ingredients that he used. He would choose the right kind of ingredient for the dish that he tried to cook and to create the best combination possible because ultimately it's the ingredient that provide the flavor for the dish. It's not the heat. My conversation with him was a true revelation for me because for many years I was under the assumption you can only stir fry properly with a lot of heat. As demonstrated here, the reason why this cook used a stove with huge amount of heat is the speed. This type of cooking approach is exactly what I used when I was working in that Chinese restaurant during my undergraduate year. I can put together a fried rice in about 2 to 3 minutes because I can really fire up the stove. But at the same time, I need to be extremely careful. In fact, I control the heat according to the instruction from the chef, because otherwise you're going to burn your ingredient. So in this case, he not only have to stir fry very quickly, In fact, he used a shaking motion to toss the rice because that's the best, faster way to stir fry the content. But in a home kitchen, this is completely unnecessary. For example, in here it demonstrates of how some cooking takes place. Here's a good example that when a person cooks a particular dish, you notice that how he controlled the heat extremely carefully. At times, he will use only very little heat, and at times that he will use a lot of heat. This is a demonstration of how the amount of heat dictated by the phase of the cooking that you were doing. And under certain phase, you can use a lot of heat because you can cook it very quickly. But some other phase, you have to really turn down the heat, otherwise the food is going to get burned. It is great theater when you watch cooks perform cooking like this. This is an exceptional way of how to demonstrate that stir frying is a really flexible technique. It will allow you to cook under high heat or under low heat. This all depends on how much heat that you apply under the circumstances that you want to cook the food. The demonstration here is demonstrate that certain stages of the cooking process, in fact, high heat is excellent because you can cook it very fast. But in other cases, high heat is actually totally destructive because it will burn your food ingredients. I still remember several years ago, a friend of mine bought a 250,000 BTU burner, which is designed for wok cooking. He cooked it for about twice, and he gave up using it because it is so intensive it burned his food. He just doesn't know how to use it properly. Now, when you're cooking at this high heat, you're going to generate a lot of oil film. And in this study have clearly demonstrated that if you cook with oil film, exposure to the oil film on a consistent basis can be detrimental to your health. In this case, it showed that it can cause lung cancer. Now, when I was growing up in Hong Kong, the idea of cooking under high heat was very popular as a street food. Because obviously on the street, people can cook up with a lot of BTU and it really do not affect in the case of a kitchen. So many of the myth has been created that if you cook under high heat, the food is going to taste better. In fact, that is always a saying is that street food has a special street food taste. But it turned out that this taste, as my friend from Houston, the chef, told me that it's because of the charring of the food ingredient. Now, when you cook under high heat, you will cause charring. In some cases, the charring actually is very flavorful, just like you would char a hamburger or a hot dog. But in other cases, the charring is actually less than desirable. For example, if you take a piece of chicken and you char it too much, it will not taste very good. So the upshot of all of this is that it all depends on different type of food that you cook, and it depends on the type of ingredients that you use. In some cases, it will be highly beneficial, but in other cases, it is not at all. In general, cook under high heat do not have the benefit of create better flavor. And as my friend told me that the flavor are created by the food ingredients. Some food ingredients, you cook a certain way, will taste good if it's slightly charred, but you can char it in under low heat as well, except it just takes a little bit longer, and you need to have the right technique to char them by adjusting the amount of oil that you use. So in summary, it is absolutely not essential. In fact, it's not desirable for a home kitchen to cook under high heat. First of all, it generates way too much oil film for anybody's comfort. And secondly is that you have to cook really, really fast, depending on how powerful your burner is. Okay, I hope that I answer this question. A friend of mine asked me, how much heat do I need for stir frying? You don't need very much. The key is that to understand the ingredients that you use and the flavor you choose to season your dish. And using my fast cooking system, which is flavor chasing, advanced prepping, stir frying, and template-based cooking, you can cook almost anything that you want with only a small amount of heat that is available to you. So keep on cooking, and I will see you tomorrow.